The second season of Daredevil is frustrating. In all honesty, I do enjoy this season, but not nearly as much as the first. With any sequel, there's always an appetite to take what the first installment did and elevate it in every way. Daredevil does this. Sort of. The action is more fluid, more dynamic. We are introduced to more characters, heroes, and villains. The story is bigger, more dangerous. But unfortunately, all of that comes at a cost because only a handful of those things are done well. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and tell a friend if you haven't. Check out the rest of the channel if you're new, and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Daredevil Season 2. Let's just state the obvious. Jon Bernthal as the Punisher is a revelation. Another perfect casting by Marvel. He embodies this character's violent nature, his grittiness, his veracity, his vengeful purpose. To be honest, Bernthal as Punisher and his storyline is my favorite part of this season. In fact, I think this should have been the main focus. The biggest issue with Daredevil Season 2 is that it stretches itself too thin. The season attempts to do three things. One, continue Matt's journey as the devil of Hell's Kitchen, and show how he balances being a vigilante with his personal life as a lawyer. Two, introduce the Punisher as an enemy turned ally of Daredevil, while simultaneously painting a picture of his backstory and the storm that he's involved in. And three, build upon the Hand's introduction from Season 1 and the inevitable war that is coming between them, Daredevil, and Stick. And, newcomer and former lover of Matt, Elektra. There is just so much packed into one season that this show can't sustain itself under the weight of all of it. The first 6 to 7 episodes of this season is fantastic. When the narrative focuses on Matt's pursuit of the Punisher and taking him on as a client, it's great. When this show analyzes Matt and Frank together in their similarities and their differences, how they both see the world and the different approaches they take to enacting justice, is compelling. It's when the show deviates from that it fails. In my opinion, this whole season should have been about the conflict between these two men. Fisk should have made a return at the end as a villain that brought these two men together. Instead, we follow this narrative for half the season, and then it splits off into something that isn't Daredevil anymore. It becomes two different shows. Then intersects in an odd fashion in the finale. It's a shame because both of these characters are written and acted so well in this season, and when they're together on screen debating the moralities of the universe and what their duties are to this world, that's when this season is at its best. And to be fair to the creators of this show, I don't dislike the Elektra/Stick storyline and the growing influence of the Hand, but it just feels like a completely different season, sort of like an afterthought. It doesn't mesh with the Punisher storyline at all. They should have taken the latter half of this season and written it into the Defenders. We didn't need this much team-up setup in one single hero's show. The Defenders falls apart because it's too much packed into only 8 episodes, and it's a bit underwhelming. Had they used the plot points in Daredevil and supplemented the material for the Defenders, I think both of these shows would have been better for it. It's just so jarring in the finale when Frank shows up out of nowhere for like 5 seconds and shoots a few guys that are standing in Daredevil's way. And to be clear, we all know that Daredevil could have probably cleared all those guys out by himself on his path to Nobu. And then Frank just walks away. It just tried to cover more ground than it could handle. Season 2 does go bigger on the action, and this is one place where this show succeeds. The action sequences are so thrilling and memorable. The Hand's hospital infiltration, the Punisher beating his way through a whole hallway of inmates, Daredevil's second encounter with Nobu, Daredevil's first encounter with Frank. There are too many to count. They're all so well choreographed, and the brutality is completely amped up from where it was in Season 1, which, considering the inclusion of the Punisher, it makes sense. The supporting cast is as good as it was in Season 1. Karen and Foggy get a lot to do this season, which I appreciated. Foggy's capabilities as a lawyer get put on display as he defends Frank in court, leading to an unexpected career opportunity later down the line. Karen continues to hone her skills as an investigator, ultimately filling the void at the Bulletin left by the death of Ben in Season 1. And the best aspects of both of these journeys that these two characters go on is that they run parallel to and are influenced by the Punisher's narrative. Fisk makes an appearance this season, which was way too short. I wish he would have made more. He should have had his own role this season. The scenes that we do get with him are incredible. I love the aspect of the Punisher's narrative where Fisk used him to achieve his goals. I only wish this was taken further. This should have been the main plot thread for this season. It's initiated and then it's over with in mere minutes. This could have been an interesting and riveting plot point had it been utilized throughout all 13 episodes. This could have been the villain that Matt and Frank teamed up against in the finale. Instead, we only get a tease of Fisk and have to wait a whole Defenders run until we see him face off against the Devil again. Speaking of 13 episodes, way too long. That's going to be a recurring complaint for all of these Netflix series outside of the Defenders. Should have been a few episodes longer. So just a fair warning. I think 10 episodes is the sweet spot. There's sometimes in this season, like all of these Netflix hero seasons, that some of it just feels like filler. While Daredevil Season 2 takes some of the best pieces of Season 1 and builds them up to greater heights, the downfall of this season is a lack of direction. The writers and producers were given too much for their plate to handle. This season would have greatly benefited from another passover of the script and a simplified narrative. As a whole, this season is still very enjoyable and there's a lot to love. The performances, chiefly from Cox and Bernthal, the action is visceral and engaging, and the Punisher narrative is compelling. There's always pressure going into a sequel of a critically acclaimed movie or series, and unfortunately, Daredevil falls into that common trap of trying to overcompensate and surpass Season 1, which is a tall task for anyone. The finished product isn't bad, but it certainly doesn't live up to the hype.